Starting. Whoop, whoop. I think we're live. Hang on, it's live. Beautiful. I have a very special guest with me today. This is Clayton Olson. You probably know him well. Clayton, good mate of mine. We got to hang out in Texas. It's a pleasure to have you on here, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark. And excited to be here. It's 4th of July here in the States. I just arrived at my house through an intense hailstorm here in Denver, and I'm glad that I made it.
It is. Happy 4th of July to everyone listening. I'm going to see if I can see the comments. Yes, we're all good. If I can bring this up on the screen. Now, can you... Oh, no, that's not going to work. Can you hear me, Clayton?
I can hear you loud and clear, man.
Beautiful. I'm getting the comments in the background so we can see who we got online. We got Laura's online, Punks is online, Mush is online. Kelly C says, hey, guys.
Hey.
I'm going to minimize that just so I can see the comments. Should you stay or should you go? That's the topic we're talking about today. I will grab these comments from the bottom without distracting myself. There we go. All right, fire. Okay, Clayton, I brought you on, mate, because you are fantastic at this topic. When it comes to, I know you worked for a lot of years with one-on-one clients, and one of the big things, and this has been something I've been getting a lot of over the past year or so as well, is women come to us and they're in a relationship that frankly isn't great. And they're torn. They're saying, should I stay or should I go? And how do I handle each of those consequences? Because neither feels very easy right now. Talking about should you stay or should you go, and then how to handle whichever way it goes, whichever you decide to do, tips around that so you can feel certain within yourself and have that clarity that you're getting this right.
Yeah. I just want to add to Mark that this is an incredibly painful territory to be in, depending on how long you've had this question circulating in your mind about whether you should stay or whether you should go. The uncertainty it can be crippling to be in the situation where, because typically it's not a clear sign. You might have a lot of feelings for the person. You might have a very passionate and intense relationship. There's aspects of the other person that you really love. Maybe you see their beauty, you see who they could be, the potential of who they could be, but perhaps you're also in contact with some crippling, toxic patterns and behaviors that you're dealing with that you just can't get out of. And it's like, God, what do I do in this situation? So I just want to say that for anybody, if you're watching this video right now and you're in a situation, whether you're in a couple months in with a guy or whether you've been in with a man for several years, I feel for you. You're not alone. This is an incredibly difficult place to be in. And I believe that what you may learn through this video is that it presents an amazing opportunity for you to get closer to your heart, get more clear on what you stand for as a human being, and possibly, if you want, give birth to a new type of pattern that you would want to be involved in a relationship and say yes to. So I know that's kind of a lot to cover, but I think we're going to touch on all that in this video today. And I'm really excited to spitball back and forth with you, Mark, because I have a deep respect for your channel and the message that you bring. And I know that you've done a lot of one-on-one coaching in this area. And I'm really excited to dive in with your mind and just to begin to piece this apart and see if we can help people move the needle in this area.
Yeah, and I can personally relate to this topic because it was only probably 3 years ago that me and my former partner, we were in this and something just felt off to me. And, you know, we were connecting and we'd have these great days and you have these great moments. And then you have these days, which is just like, this doesn't feel right. This feels so wrong. Something doesn't feel congruent here. And you're torn because kind of on the outside, even on the inside, you just really like want to connect with this person. You're like, oh, I just want her to love me and I just want her to connect to me and just get this right. But there's like this underlying stuff that's causing these doubts, and you're so in love on the one hand, and then you so feel like, I just don't know if this is right on the other. But the prospect of leaving is so scary. It just leaves you in this real bind, doesn't it? That is
great way to put it.
In my particular situation, we ended up going to a couple of psychologists, and we eventually decided, you know, we weren't right for each other. The pain afterwards, it was like a month. I was like crying, and I was like, oh, but I still love her so much. Did we do the right thing? There's so many doubts.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to cover a little bit later on just how to run through some of those doubts as well if you do decide to end it.
Yeah.
And if it's not working for you, how to make that work.
Yeah.
So Clayton, let's dive in. Who have we got? Let's make sure the comments are scrolling. Just gonna look on my left here. Hello from Los Angeles, says Angela. Brady says you don't need to have another person act a certain way so you can be happy. Mick says I feel like I'm being mentally abused. Wow.
Thank you for saying that.
Big thumbs up. Hello from Chi-Town, says Yvonne. Clayton, you've actually got we're going to talk a little bit about your webinar, which you can go into after this. The link's in the description. You've got an amazing webinar to help people with this.
Yeah.
Kick it off, Clayton. A client comes to you, hey, I'm in a relationship, this romantic situation that I don't feel is serving me. Should I go? What's the first thing you say?
Yeah, so the first thing that I do in that situation is I want them to tell me a little bit about the relationship and what specifically it is that they are struggling with, what's the specific dynamic it is that's coming up in the relationship that they are a no to, or that they are wanting to have it complete and end fully. And when I say end fully, what I mean is I don't necessarily mean the relationship itself, but typically there is some type of pattern that keeps rising up over and over again in their connection that has them doubting whether or not they've got the resilience, the tolerance, the acceptance to be able to stay in it. And so what I like to do is get a little bit closer into what specifically that looks like. Now, here's where it can kind of get tricky, Mark, because oftentimes, and this is where relationship can be such a, it can be a paradox, because whenever we are in a relationship and there's something that we're not, we're experiencing that we're not wanting, it's sometimes hard to stomach this. It's a hard pill to swallow, but sometimes there is a way in which we are contributing to that dynamic. There's a way that we are keeping that dynamic alive, the exact dynamic that we want to end. And when we can look at it through the eyes of what am I responsible for in this? How am I consenting or allowing this dynamic to continually occur that I don't want? It may feel like we're taking on blame. It may feel like we're taking on fault, but that's not actually it. It's a way for us to move from a place of feeling like we're victimized by the relationship to moving to a place of personal responsibility and empowerment in the relationship to actually be able to do something about it, right? Because here's what I think can be really tragic. If we get out of a relationship prematurely without doing the work on ourselves while we're in the relationship, so that when we are finally out of it, we can be clear that we said, you know what, I did all that I could. I showed up clean and clear. I showed up with integrity. I showed up honoring myself and not reacting from my insecurities. And I'm breaking up with this person from a sober perspective rather than one where I'm flooded with an emotional trigger. So the first step is to find out, like, what is it that is so emotionally triggering in the relationship? What is it that you don't want to deal with anymore? And beginning to look at how might I be actually responsible for helping create this dynamic?
Yeah, cool. So could you give an example of where you've helped someone do this, or where there's a pattern that's happening? How could I be responsible for facilitating that?
Yeah, great question. So one very common problem that I see come up is a woman who is playing a specific type of role that I like to call the discarded. And she might not be conscious of the fact that she's playing the discarded role, but what it is it's where she is giving to get something in the relationship. She is perhaps overextending herself, compromising herself, maybe showing up as a doormat. Maybe she's giving and giving and giving, and she feels like she's being taken advantage of. She feels like she's not being appreciated. She's feeling like that the relationship is on his terms, and that she's with a very selfish partner, and she's feeling very depleted. Now, that can feel like, if you're in that situation, you're watching this is number one, it's very common. So again, you're not alone in this. And number two, sometimes the highest leverage point piece in this is that it actually could be some type of boundary issue, or you're in the relationship and you're in the relationship out of fear of being single, rather than being in the relationship because you truly want to create something powerful. So I'm going to pause right there. Does that land? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can remember I remember in my previous relationship, and one of the things, my background, mate, is stripping, as you
Yeah.
probably, I'm sure some of the viewers know. And I've generally had partners that have had no issues with that. And I remember this one long-term partner, she was always fine at the beginning, but it started to come up later on. And it was this thing where every time I would have a show night, it would be, there was this dynamic, like we'd be good throughout the week. And then there was this dynamic of, from her end, well, you're choosing to hurt me, or choosing to hurt me. You're going out. And so I'm, on the one hand, feeling like I should do my thing. On the other hand, I'm at the time very much going, am I an ass, right? Am I choosing to hurt her? Is she right? And it's easy to look back now and for me to see, okay, we were actually completely over each other's boundaries. What I was doing at the time was I was facilitating taking responsibility for her feelings, which was actually rewarding the pattern instead of saying, and perhaps it should have broken up earlier, instead of saying, hey, I can hear you. How can we find a compromise here where I can still live my life and you can be happy about it? Yeah. Instead of saying that, I'm walking around feeling guilty, which is actually a boundary lapse on my part.
Beautiful.
So in a way, the toxicity was my responsibility.
Yes. Nice. Very nice. Yeah. Perfect example. I love that. And to take it to the female side of things, if you're feeling as a woman, perhaps taken advantage of, or like you're with a partner that's not necessarily appreciating you, and you're giving, and you're not getting anything in return, it could be that the giving is coming from a place of fear rather than a real place of generosity. And injecting that kind of fear or that insecurity in the relationship actually doesn't create a deeper intimacy. What it does, paradoxically, is it actually holds the guy at arm's length. And it actually stops him from being able to get close to you and give you anything because you're too busy giving to him. So it actually stops you from being able to receive. It stops you from being able to be someone that he can actually support and step in. Now, it could also be that if you've got that pattern, you might attract a guy who's just a taker as well, because those two archetypes tend to go really well together, a giver and a taker. So as you begin to heal these fears, these wounds within yourself, you have more flexibility to enter into a relationship with a different type of dance, one that is not generated from a place of fear. And you also get to pick partners that are not perpetuating and confirming your own insecurity over and over and over again. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I'm curious, Clayton, I get a lot of women that come to me and they say, should I stay or should I go?
Yeah.
At the moment in this relationship, and they'll tell me a bit of a story of the relationship. They'll say, well, every time I ask to have my feelings known, he shuts me down. He says I'm being needy or insecure. And I hear this with coaching brain, and I just think, all right, there's someone who can't hear yes. There's a man who can't, even stop and hear her.
Yeah.
And in many of these cases, it's been going on for years. Like it's been months or years where the pattern has gotten increasingly more toxic, and it's kind of the same thing more and more.
Yeah.
How many, in your experience, how many of these relationships can actually be turned around and reset? As in, how many does the guy actually say, once the woman changes her pattern and she says, well, I'm going to be the overgiver, or I'm not going to let my boundaries get walked on, how often is the guy actually willing to change, to set up a new healthy dynamic?
Got it. Yeah. So like, almost like what's the chances of being able to turn something like that around? Right. Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
So it depends. Just from top of mind, hearing you ask that question, there's two components. The first component is, one, how long has it actually been going on? How long has this dance been entrenched in the relationship? Right. So, for instance, if we call that dance, this dance of overgiving and overtaking, let's just call that tango. If you've been dancing tango with your partner for 20, 30 years, suddenly stopping dancing tango and trying to dance salsa, you guys might trip and fall and the whole dance ends, and you're going to need a break or some time apart to actually reset to be able to enter into a new dance together.
Yeah, very difficult.
What can contribute to the dance falling apart too is if the woman or the man who's ever trying to change the pattern is trying to change the pattern from a place of feeling so resentful that the pendulum swings back the other direction to try to overcorrect all of the pain, right? Overcorrect all of the giving. So suddenly, say if you're a giver, you are now taking back everything, and now you're feeling like you're trying to collect your debt from the other person because it's so out of balance. That actually is just another toxic pattern of the pendulum swinging the other direction. That typically, so if you're wanting to change this pattern, you actually have to approach it with curiosity, a deep respect for the person that you're with, seeing that you are the one also contributing to it, and almost a sense of humor and a sense of levity around it if you actually want to change it. Because if you've got a momentum going one direction, it might take a little while for the two of you to learn a new type of step to where he starts to wake up perhaps to the fact that maybe he has been wanting to give you and has felt like you've been impenetrable, or he is starting to relate to a new version of you that's not giving quite so much. So slowly, delicately, taking it gracefully and doing it from a place of love and curiosity is what gives one the best possible chance of being able to shift a pattern like this.
Yeah, nice. Okay, I'm going to go to a couple of comments here. We've got Hollis says, I see a broken finger. I'm buddy taping mine. That is actually a cat bite, what I've done there. Cheeky little cat bit me on the finger. Elisa says, why do I want to run in the opposite direction when someone pursues me a little too much? It's a turn off, and I think I'm going to end up single forever because I need so much space. Thoughts on that?
So let me just echo the question back so I'm hearing it properly, because you broke up a little bit. What she asked, why do I get turned off when a guy pursues me too much?
Yeah.
Well, the first word that comes to mind and the first thing that I get curious about is I'm wondering what her attachment style is.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I forgot her name, the person who's asking the question here. Alyssa, I'm wondering if you've read anything about attachment styles and if you have been able to identify yourself if you have any avoidant tendencies. A third of the population has this. I have some avoidant tendencies as well, so I can totally relate to the people coming in and also wanting to get some space. And typically this kind of thing can come from childhood, where maybe we had a really smothering parent, or we had a parent that was a little bit unstable. In order for us to individuate as a kid, we had to keep our parent at arm's length. And so later on in life, when we meet a prospective partner, if they come in too quickly, we start to freak out a little bit and we want to keep them at arm's length. So it could be that. And the more that you become aware of this pattern, your body starts to realize that it's not life-threatening if a guy really likes you. It's not actually going to be something that's going to smother you and take you over, and you can learn to actually feel safe in connection. And that's really the avoidance work, is to start to feel safe while connected with another person. And it could also be too that you may be attracting some guys that are particularly anxious. An avoidant personality type tends to attract the reciprocal because they both have the medicine to heal each other. Where the anxious is starting to reach because you're triggering them and they're feeling a little bit like abandoned, and you do the dance perfectly, which is to take a step back and they take a step forward, and you take a step back and they just take a step forward again.
Yeah, it becomes this perfect match like this. Like,
yes. Yeah, what's your thoughts on that? Does that resonate in your world, Mark?
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I always want to talk to a client one-to-one to kind of get a vibe for that, Alyssa. Yeah. Generally say either you're playing out an avoidant pattern, which means that, yeah, you're attracting anxious men, or even a secure guy could scare you if you're avoidant enough.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I sometimes have women who come to me who are actually secure, and they've had a run of needy guys, and they just have a run of anxiouses, and they're perfectly secure. They've just pushed away the wrong guys, and there's nothing wrong there at all. So generally, it's one of those two, and I'll just generally talk to the client and get a vibe myself, or do I feel they're being secure, or do I feel they're actually avoidant leaning? And I often find that usually they know. Usually, it's like, am I just pushing away needy guys, but I'm secure and I'm open to connecting with the right people, or am I just like running every time a guy likes me, which is like, okay, we're in a
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that you bring that up. And one of the, I think, ways that you can decipher too, Alyssa, about whether you're secure and it's just you have a string of needy guys versus maybe there's some work for you to do, is notice how is your feeling around them being needy. right? Does it just feel like an incompatibility where it feels in some ways just like neutral, like, okay, like this guy's needy and he wants more from me than I can give? Or do you find yourself getting emotionally reactive and really wanting to push away hard? Because if you find yourself getting triggered and emotionally reactive, it could mean that there's something there for you to take a look at.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I like that. It's more of a triggering fight or flight response when an emotion is dealing with an anxious or even a secure.
Yep.
Whereas when you're just secure, there won't be the same emotional charge to it. It's kind of what you'll just pull back because you're like, this is weird. I'm just going to not, like it just doesn't feel right, but it's a fairly calm push away.
Yep.
Yeah, nice. Clayton, we diverted a little bit there. What are the key signs, should you say, or should you go, key signs that it's time to go?
Yeah, great. So yeah, Mark, we might share, I think we share, and we have some overlap in our philosophy here for sure. Before the call, we were just talking a little bit about it. And one of the things that I just want to say from my standpoint is I like to operate from a place of principle rather than giving super clear signs, because I like in some ways, when you're done. I had somebody tell me this before. It's like, how do you know when to get out of a relationship? And they said, well, how do you know when to get out of a bathtub?
Yeah.
Right? It's like
nice.
the water gets to a certain temperature, your body heat gets to a certain place, and then suddenly it's like, you know what? Wow, like I'm done. I'm out. I'm stepping out of this. And so I like to use that analogy because sometimes you'll know when you know. And if you're in a place of not really having a lot of clarity around it and you find yourself getting triggered and there's a lot of doubt, it could be that there's some work to do there. Now, I will say that there are aspects of, if you feel like you are being emotionally abused, if you're being belittled by your partner, and here's a really, this can be a clear sign that I see where a client may want to really consider walking, is if when they see themselves through their partner's eyes, they're smaller and they're less confident, and they are through their partner's eyes, who's reflected back to them through their partner's eyes is a version of themselves that is outdated, constricted, and limited, that is not in line with the direction that you want to move, and you really are feeling completely held back. I mean, it can be that a relationship that people have purged out of relationships if that gets too intense, where it's like you have no other choice but to break up with this person. It's like the straw that breaks the camel's back. So that would be my comment on that. How about you, man?
Yeah, that's huge. I really agree. I like to do a couple of quick checks, which is simply, do you feel overall more or less of a person from being in a relationship?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've grown in general? Not every day is going to be perfect, but do you feel like you're generally happier, generally more confident? Or do you feel the opposite? Do you feel you're more questioning? Is there more self-doubt there? Any of those taken over the span of the relationship is a very big indicator that something's wrong and it can't continue on that path. It has to be changed. One of the challenges, as we were talking about before, many women have with this is that when you change someone who's gotten used to you being a certain way, often they won't be happy with the change. And so if you've had, for example, an inability to say no, or you haven't been so good at saying no to someone, and they haven't been so good at hearing you say no either, it's kind of like if your boss, you start a new job and your boss says, hey, you should, we've got a big project, you should stay till 6. And you're like, oh, I don't really want to stay till 6, but all right, a big project, the boss will like me more. And then, the next month it's, hey, you got to stay till 8. We got a big project tomorrow. You're a great employee, great job. And then I don't really want to stay till 8. And eventually you're staying till 10 every night. When you come in and try to reset that and leave at 5, often the boss won't be compatible with that. They'll just want to fire you on the spot. So I do find that a lot of women who come to me have been in this quite a while, and they're trying to reset that, and the guy unfortunately doesn't have a bar of it. But I do think I agree with what you said. If there's any decreased growth, decreased happiness overall, that's a big one. Fundamental incompatibilities, living in the same place and we have no intention to. I want kids and you don't. We're different religions and we can't find a middle ground compromise. The central question that I like to ask, by the way, give the video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. It helps share it around. The central question that I like to ask is, if that thing didn't change, would you still be there? Is this a problem that you're happy to live with long term?
Mm.
And that'll give you a really good insight as to whether or not you should stay or go.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful, Mark. I love all of that, man. And one of the things that you said that I just want to underscore that I think is really powerful, and I'm really glad that you brought it up, is you continually referenced the span of the relationship, right? Like there are going to be points in the relationship where you doubt yourself. There are going to be points in the relationship where you're maybe not attracted, or there's something to change. But to Mark's point, if it's something that is just a reoccurring problem, like you're stuck in a washing machine, and it goes over and over and over, and there's no growth, and it seems like it's getting just more and more entrenched, that's something to take a look at and begin to analyze things the way that Mark's talking about.
Clayton, any other key points? Obviously, things like abuse, when there's mental, physical abuse.
Yeah.
A lot of times I find women come to me and they really want to hear me say this can be saved. And many times it can't. Has that been your experience, or it's a struggle to do so?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll say this. This idea of saving a relationship, and I'm a real stickler on language, because I believe that how we talk about something and the language that we use to describe it is what actually it's actually creating it. So if we're trying to save a relationship rather than start a new dynamic with somebody, the saving of the relationship doesn't actually allow for there to be any room for actual transformation. Because in some ways, if we're saving something, we're just resurrecting some perhaps old pattern that's not actually working. And so I don't actually think that gives us the tools in the present moment to create something brand new that actually maybe has the bandwidth and the resilience to make it long term.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
Right? So let's actually just remove this whole idea of saving a relationship, and let's talk about, like, is it possible to create a new dynamic in your relationship? Is it possible to create a new way of being with the person that you love that perhaps has the territory and the resilience to last a lifetime? And I do believe that's possible, but what it often takes is it takes at least one person, and most likely you, if you're wanting to do this, to really take a look at yourself and notice if there's any toxicity in the way that you relate to you, and to be able to rid yourself of that. And maybe that means working with Mark, maybe that means working with me, maybe that means hiring a therapist, somebody that you connect with, somebody that can really offer you a neutral mirror to begin to look at yourself, so that you are not subtly blaming your partner and making it their responsibility to change in order for you to feel happy. But it's a move, it's a maneuver to take the power back so that you can show up the way that you want to show up now in the relationship. And you know what? If it's the right person, they will either stick around, and if they're not, they're going to fall away because you're no longer going to be a match for them. Just like Mark was talking about, how like the boss might not be able to deal with you having a new set of boundaries around timing.
One thing my coach always emphasizes with me, or always emphasized with me, was he said, always watch for signs of drama and impulsiveness in your relationship. And he said, these two are two of the biggest red flags, which is when there is a lot of impulsive behavior. Comment here, for example, Karen says, my boyfriend says he loves me so much and always will, but then disappears for 2 or 3 days and then comes back to life. That impulsive inconsistency, really reflecting, or at least what I hear when a client's telling me that, is the impulsive inconsistency on the outside, reflected of the impulsive inconsistency on the inside. And when someone is impulsive and inconsistent, it often leads to a lot of drama. And I have a saying that it can be fun to go on a roller coaster, but you'd never want to live on one. So fundamentally unstable. If your relationship's feeling like a roller coaster, if it's full of impulsive behavior and drama, that, in my experience, has been one of the biggest red flags that a client should leave that relationship.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. And to that point too, I want to say that I would get curious as to what is actually happening on that guy's map of reality, the guy who's saying, I love you, and he disappears for 2 to 3 days, rather than if I'm not sure who asked that question, but if she is approaches him with a sense of curiosity rather than blame, rather than taking him disappearing personally, but approaching him with curiosity and finding out, hey, what's going on here? Right. And really understanding like what his map of reality is, because maybe in his mind, he thinks he's showing up consistently, because maybe that actually is the most consistent he's showed up in a relationship in the past. So to him, he's doing everything right. But to like, let's get his world for a moment and approach him with curiosity. It could be an opportunity to have a conversation with him about the impact that him leaving for 2 to 3 days is having on you. Not assuming that he's purposely hurt you or that he's incongruent, but just to let him know, to share your reality with him as well, see if there's some overlap and whether or not there is really some core compatibility and some adjustments that can be made. And so to that end, though, it's like if he comes back and he's like, look, you're too needy, you want me to be here and, you need to fix it on you. Like, I'm not going to drop my life and talk to you every single day, and he's unwilling to look at his own pattern or take responsibility. I think that is a massive red flag, that if someone is not willing to look at themselves and say, the way that I am showing up might be having a negative impact on the relationship and it's all their fault, I say run for the frickin' hills.
Yeah, I agree with that. I absolutely agree. What was I going to ask? I had a really good question for you on there. No, it slipped my mind. Signs that, you know what it was?
Yeah.
Is there a situation where if you're the only one doing the work, it can be, you can start a new relationship dynamic if you're the only one who's willing to, willing to action on work? Is there ever a situation where you can start a new relationship solo, so to speak?
Got it. Yeah, I'm a firm believer of that. I think that, this is going to come down to perhaps different relationship philosophies on like, how do we know someone over there is actually doing the work, right? What does the work actually look like? Like what if we change the dynamic within ourselves? If I'm over here, Mark, and say you and I are in a relationship and I start to show up differently where I'm honoring my boundaries and I'm perhaps being more clear with my needs and I'm also expressing impact, that might very well open up to you like the work for you might actually be listening to the impact that you're having on me. And just by virtue of you being in relationship with me, you might be confronted with the work. And in order to even stay in the relationship with me, you have to shift and transform, which is in itself doing the work. So I do believe if one person shifts in a dynamic in a system, the other person has to shift, otherwise they fall away.
That's brilliant. So what you're basically saying for those listening is that if you shift your patterns to get them right, he's either going to have to come with you or get blown out of the water.
Boom. Exactly.
Nice. I love it. Okay.
By the way, do you think it might be a time to like throw the webinar out there just in case anybody's wanting to?
Yeah, you've got this phenomenal webinar. Clayton, a few of my clients have actually gone and done Clayton's webinar and they just rave about it. Do you want to talk a little bit about it, Clayton?
Totally.
Webinar that's totally free.
It is. It's totally free. It's some of the best content that I've put out there. I spent a couple months building it with another relationship coach named Jack Butler. I'm sure if you're familiar with me, you've probably seen him on my channel. He's got his own channel as well. But it's called the 3 Keys to Attracting and Keeping a High Quality Man. And it's everything that you can begin to do on your side of the fence to start to show up as your true essence, not playing roles, not playing games, not manipulating, but showing up as your most fully authentic self and actually find the right guy to love you for it. That's what we cover in the hour and 30 minutes that we're together on the call. I can guarantee that you will see yourself and you will see the way you enter into relationships and dating differently just at the end of that hour. So take a look at it. It's below this link. It's completely free. If you're a fan of Mark and you love his high value content, Mark and I share a very similar philosophy. So I think they really plug nicely in together. That'd be my invitation.
It's very, very cool, this webinar. I'm just going to grab the link. It is in the description as well, but you can also, I'll put the link just in the comments for you guys now. Totally free, 3 Keys to Attracting and Keeping a Great Man. Yeah, happy 4th of July to everyone who's on there. Oh, that was the wrong thing I posted. My bad. Where is the link? I'll post this up here.
Yeah, and as you're looking for it, I can just say like a couple of the keys that we talk about. One of them is we talk about the discarded that I talked about earlier, and we also talk about another role called the defended. And these are two unconscious roles that women unconsciously slip into sometimes that block intimacy, and they cause you to either be pushing men away and being defended, or they have you compromising yourself and giving too much. And when you can distinguish these two roles, you start to have choice around whether you're actually in them or not. And then we also talk about vulnerability. We talk about feminine vulnerability and how you can use that within yourself to call out the most trustworthy, integrated man into your life, and actually get guys to be their best selves when they're with you. So click the link. Have you there.
Yeah, make sure you hit that link after as well and have a check out of that webinar. Clayton, when it comes to getting past one of these relationships, and I think one of the hard parts is, in my own story, which I talked about a little bit earlier, the chemistry was really there, right? We had a huge amount of chemistry, and even though I spotted these toxicities, even though it felt kind of wrong, and even though we managed to make, I think, absolutely the right decision and end that relationship, the chemistry just pulled me back so much. It was so many nights of just like crying in my room and being sad about losing her. And even though we knew we did the right thing, it was so effing hard. Any tips, if you are listening to this and you're about to have to go through, you've listened to what we've said and you say, I'm going to end this, or I think it's the right thing to do, how to survive that brutal first month?
Whew. Man, I've been there. And I just want to say thank you for being vulnerable and opening up and talking about that. Cause I bet everybody can relate who has been in a relationship and has ended it. Cause, oh man, it is. And so I would say this, look, the first step that has helped me and has helped clients is beginning to reframe the experience that's occurring as one that you are now entering a curriculum where you are getting a PhD in your own heart, and you are getting a PhD in honoring your deepest values. And it's like going to a CrossFit workout. It's going to be painful. You're going to be out of breath. Your body's going to be burning. But at the end of the day, this is happening for you. It's there to make you a stronger person. It's there to dig out a deeper root system for you as a spiritual being, so that you can have more fortitude in life and to take on things with more clarity and presence. And that, you know what, all the money in the world cannot pay for the experience that you're going through. The richest man in the world, the richest woman in the world could not pay to experience the heartbreak that you're going through. And that heartbreak is literally there because it's evidence of how much you love the person. It's evidence of how healthy your heart was actually working. So I think when we can put it into perspective and we can see it's painful, but man, it is a once in a lifetime experience of being human that money cannot buy. I think that it can change our orientation to it to say yes, like bring it on, like feel it, like this. Look, the heartbreak will end at some point, and you will get through it, and maybe you'll forget about the person. And one could say that that's actually the worst part about it, is when you stop having an open, broken heart, and that open, broken heart is the thing that actually has you engage with life with all cylinders. So. Yeah, that's my take on it, is to change the context and see that it's actually a beautifully painful and powerful gift that is only going to dig your capacity to love people in the future even further and deeper.
Yeah, and being able to feel that, I think it's a good lesson for a lot of men as well. And I kind of had a philosophy for myself. There's this cliche idea that women are sadder after breakups and men will distract themselves more. And I think there's some truth to that. I kind of have my own philosophy, which just makes sense to my head, which is break up like a girl. That actually means is just feel the emotions, feel what you need to. I can remember I'd be having a great day and then suddenly I'd just be crying. And I'm like, well, it's just so erratic. But when you actually feel that, it's like a storm passing. You feel the sadness and then it passes. You remember that you've done the right thing. And particularly with clients, I'll often have them, there's usually some feelings that they're missing, which is often the love, the connection, the safety. And when a practical exercise you can do, when you actually extrapolate out the results of staying with that person, in my own scenario, it was like, okay, well, I miss her right now. I miss the love and connection. But 12 months from now, with these toxicities unsolved, what I'm actually feeling is the complete opposite to love and connection, right? The complete opposite to being safe with her. I'm feeling attacked. I'm feeling low self-esteem. I'm feeling no love within myself, let alone from her.
Mm.
Realizing the thing that you're missing is actually not what your lower brain, like it thinks, hey, if I can get back with her, I can get more love. And you realize actually more love is going to come from going through this pain now, because in 12 months, I'm going to have so much more love.
Brilliant.
It's that blow.
Brilliant. Yeah. What I hear you doing there, what I love about that is like you're having the forethought to future and look at the toxic patterns or the patterns or whatever it is that you're dealing with. You're willing to look at the hard truth of where it could go, right? And you're willing to like shelve the hope of it changing to look at the truth of what's happening. And that takes so much courage, man. That takes a lot of courage.
It's something that I find clients, and if you're listening, this is just thinking. I literally did this on a client session yesterday, which is she's really missing this guy, and I said, all right, what were the three main traits that you miss in him? Oh, sorry, what were the three main traits that are not good in him?
Yeah.
And one of them was poor communicator. I can't remember what not supportive was one of them. Poor communicator.
Yeah.
And all right, let's spend 20, 30 minutes now and extrapolate what being with a poor communicator actually means for your life. And we extrapolated it out, and we did a day 5 years from now and a day 10 years from now with a poor communicator.
Nice.
And just like, it was like horrific. It was like, oh, I wake up every morning, he doesn't want to talk to me. The kids are getting low self-esteem. I feel horrible about myself. I go to work depressed. I come home, he doesn't want to talk to me. I make my own dinner. The kids are picking up on my depression. That's becoming their model of the world. It was like writing a horror story. And when I actually got this client's nervous system to go into, this is what it's going to feel like.
Yeah.
Suddenly, like, oh, am I really missing him that much? Like, it hurts that he's not here, but that's what I'm missing. That's the reality of being with a poor communicator who doesn't want to do the work.
Yeah.
Suddenly she's like, oh, right, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm grateful for him because he's going to push me towards a right communicator, but I'm not missing him.
Yep. Yeah. Beautiful. So something else I want to say there that I really I'm getting in touch with while you're talking about it is, in some ways, by doing that, you're also increasing the fear of like you're getting them in touch with the reality of the fear of staying in it and wasting time versus like fear of being single, right? So suddenly being single doesn't actually seem that bad, right? And here's the thing, like staying in a relationship because you're afraid of being single is a very limited reason, and it's a very difficult place to create anything new from in a relationship because you're constricted if you're afraid of being single. So if you can start to actually look at being single from a place of, you know what, I can survive this. Life is going to be okay. It might be hard at first, but I'm gonna get through it. I'm gonna survive. I'm gonna be okay. You are much more resourced to be able to perhaps even have conversations that matter with your partner to change the dynamic. Maybe the honest conversations that are needed, where you're not walking around on rice paper and you're able to have sober adult conversations with the person from a place of being able to walk away, that might actually be the thing that is necessary and needed to switch the way he listens, switch the way that you listen, switch the way that both of you communicate. What you just said about that, like just the exercise of realizing that something needs to change.
Yeah, I like that too, because it's exactly what you said. You're changing fear of not being with the person to fear of wasting time and being with someone terrible or not being with anyone right off in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that, love that. The other thing I'll often have women do is connecting with their empowered masculine. Something I really had to do in the flip side was connecting with my own feminine. We really feel when the person leaves us, and you can even be balanced within yourself, but just having that great opposite energy presence around you, you get used to it. You kind of start to rely on it. You don't practice your own masculine or feminine as much, whatever, for us feminine, for the viewers masculine.
Yeah.
And when that person goes, you feel like you're losing, for example, the sense of safety, the sense of security. And I will often do a really simple exercise where I'll just have the client literally imagine that one of their best days with the guy. And it sounds counterintuitive because you think, oh, they're going to miss him because of that. But you're in the best, most safest day with the guy. Just simply point out the fact that, well, the guy's not in the room. So clearly it has nothing to do with the guy. You're drawing on that energy yourself, and he was just a trigger. I'll then have them, go to bed each night and just access that safety and security using memories and imagination. And a lot of those masculine traits that they thought the guy brought out, they actually bring them out in themselves.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. So what I hear you saying in some ways is you're taking, metaphorically, you're unplugging the outsourcing, the masculine outsourcing that is plugged into their boyfriend, and you're having them take those tubes and plug them back into themselves so that they can be the source of that. Right. And it sounds like too, you can do this with the love as well. You can be like, oh my God, I miss their love, even though maybe it was bad. Like I so desperate. And it's like, this is where you can actually pull the plug out of them there and plug it back into yourself. Because the thing is it's not actually his responsibility to make you feel loved.
No.
He does some certain things, and he's a trigger, a catalyst, and you're the one that is generating the love within your heart that you feel about life. So a breakup is a beautiful opportunity to become internally sourced with these feelings of masculinity that Mark is talking to, as well as these feelings of safety and these feelings of love and protection and expansiveness.
Yeah, it's funny, Clayton. I don't know if you get this. I get a lot of women that come to me and they send a message. They say, I want to book in a session.
Yeah.
And then they may even book it in, and about 3 days later they say, actually, it's okay, I don't need the session, we broke up. And I kind of want to yell at them. I'm like, this is the best time to have a session. Yep. It's way better to have a session when you've just broken up than it is when you're on the stringy edge of a relationship that's about to break up, because there is so much potential empowerment from pain. Like, you can either sit in pain or you can let it rebound you in the opposite direction, right?
Totally, man.
It's just so much potential. When you've just broken up, that is your number one opportunity in life, because the opportunity is always relative to the amount of pain you're in. And I think it's a real shame. Some of them stick at it, some of them cancel. But I always think, oh, gee, it's a shame that probably would have been the most powerful session of their lives.
Dude, I love that. Yeah, the metaphor that I use with folks around that is that as a coach, my work is so much easier when I'm dealing with somebody going through a breakup, because quite literally, I'm walking in the middle of a storm with a 50-foot tsunami that they're riding. And what we have to do is get them to find their balance on that wave and ride it all the way to shore. And the amount of speed and the amount of transformation that they're going to experience as a result of finding their balance in the midst of this storm is one that they'll take with them for the rest of their life. So yeah, if you're going through a breakup, absolutely find a coach or somebody that you can work with through this time where you can rebuild your identity and find that sense of self, safety, masculine, love, all of that within you, and move forward. Because the types of relationships you're going to create as a result of doing that work now after a breakup are night and day compared to what you did last.
Huge difference. Clayton, you talk about this a bit in your webinar as well. I'll put the link here.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest, name of the webinar, 3 Secrets to Attracting and Keeping a Great Guy.
Yep.
And you're going to talk about these concepts in there absolutely for free.
We're going to talk about some concepts. We're going to talk about the different roles that you might be playing that are blocking love. We're also going to talk about this one is kind of intriguing. I'm not going to give it away, but we talk about the one organizing question that every single man is asking inside of his mind the moment he meets you, all the way until the moment he commits, that determines whether he sees you as a life partner. Now, some guys, if they're really aware, they know this question that's going on in their mind, but oftentimes it's subconscious. So when you understand this question that men are asking about you that determine whether you are partner quality or not for them, it just gives you an inside look as to how he is calculating whether or not he's going to commit and whether or not he sees a future with you. So that's actually key too in the webinar. It's super powerful. Come on board. It's some of the best content that we've put out there, and the link is below in the description. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the description. I just put it in the chat as well. Clayton's content is phenomenal. We've actually got some videos coming out a little bit later in the year that we've in Texas, of all places. We're into Austin, Texas, and really cool content there that you're going to love. But yeah, make sure you see his webinar, because we did a webinar previously together, and the people that came on with my stuff were just raving about his webinar. The testimonials are crazy for this webinar. So have a look at it. It's totally free. Invest this time in yourself. You got your 4th of July off. Check out that webinar, because it is phenomenal. And I just know Clayton personally. He's such a genuine, real guy that you will get a huge amount of benefit from applying what he talks about.
Thank you, man. That means an incredible, a lot coming from you, Mark. I have a lot of respect for you, so thank you.
Dude, final thoughts. Should you stay or should you go? And handling it either way, what would be a takeaway thought that if someone's uncertain, they can leave this stream with?
Yeah, it comes down to cultivating and creating presence in your life. These are some big questions. Should you stay or should you go? And Mark and I, we can sit over here and we can throw some principles at you. We can toss out some ideas, some personal stories. Mark, I personally loved your interjection of just some of the struggles that you had in your relationship. I've been there as well. I've been in the crucible of this question: should I stay or should I go? And it's true. When it comes down to it, at the end of the day, what ultimately has helped me, and I've seen help my clients, is really learning and seeing the ways where you're distracting yourself, where you're outsourcing your power, where you're not really being connected with yourself. Because truly, when you slow down and you're connected with your own heart, when you're connected with your knowing, and you're not just consistently, frantically running around from day to day doing tasks, or checking your phone, or looking at social media, or looking for everybody else thinking they have the answer to your life, and you're able to tap in and build that relationship with you, the answer will surface. It will come, and it will be a clear knowing, and it just may take some time. So I think if you're in this question right now, it sounds like it's a perfect gateway to cultivate a deeper relationship with yourself, and that's the one thing that I would leave you with and encourage you to do.
I love that. I love that, Clayton. I would probably add in as a final thought from me, look at yourself honestly and say, would I be happy with this in the long term if it doesn't change? And if the answer is no, and be real honest with yourself, if the answer is no, then say, all right, I'm going to step up to change this. And if that means the guy comes with me, awesome. If that means I'm going to dive into some pain for a month or two, I know I'm going to be better for it in the long term.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that.
I love it. Thank you so much, Angela. Sailor, Ithral was online. Nikki, yes, I was in Austin. Alyssa, Hollis, Helene, you guys left such lovely comments. We didn't get to as many. I'm sorry we didn't get to as many as we usually do. But I really wanted to share what Clayton had to say, because if you just listen to him and apply what he says, honestly, you'll have fantastic results in life and love. I ask him questions in my own personal life and get feedback off him. Like, that's how good this guy is. Life to be lived was online. Helena said hi. Helena was here. Helena helped set up this after a drink. She had 1 or 2 drinks down, and she helped me set this up. So I just want a big bit of a shout out to Helena there. Helena
is a live stream goddess. She knows what she's doing.
She is amazing. Check out her channel as well. And yeah, make sure, I'll put it in the comments, but make sure you check out Clayton's webinar. It's absolutely free, and it's very, very cool. So, sir, thank you. It's been a pleasure as always.
The question. Wow, thank you for all of it, man. It's been great dialoguing with you about this, man. I learned a lot, and rounded out some of this knowledge as well from you. So thank you.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. Thanks again. We'll see you guys soon.